In this lesson, we'll sync a music track to this video, and in the process, learn how to target tracks and how to enable and disable tracks. In the browser, open the audio folder and double-click the AIF file. This is a stereo file, so the tab reads stereo A1, A2, and both of the joined stereo tracks appear in the waveform display area. And obviously, since it's an AIF music track, there's no video tab associated with it. To sync this audio with the guide track, we need to identify the same point in the music in both tracks. In the timeline, scrub to about 5 seconds, 8 frames, and hit play. The male background vocal provides a clear lead-in to a strong downbeat, which occurs right around 6:19. Let's park the playhead there and find the same point in the studio track. Since I've heard this one a few dozen times more than you have, I'll spare you the Goose Chase. With the viewer active, type 25 period and hit return. To bring the playhead to the 25-second mark, hit play. Our downbeat occurs at 27:23. Hit I to mark an in. Shift right arrow 3 times to move 3 seconds, and hit O to mark an out. As you can see by the height or amplitude of this waveform, this track will be much louder than our guide track. In order to compare them, let's drop the level to -20 dB. An audio-only track behaves differently. You can't just drag it into the timeline the same way you can a video clip. Go ahead and try. Final Cut thinks you want to scrub the track. Now we could drag the clip from the browser. Our in and out points would be preserved, but rummaging in a crowded browser for a clip that's already open in the viewer is a real time waster. Hit Command-Z to undo. This little icon is called the drag hand. It's a kind of proxy for positioning audio clips. Just click and drag. And remember, we want to hear both tracks, so we need to place this stereo track below the guide track. Use the timeline playhead to line it up, and aim low on the track to get the downward-facing arrow for an overwrite edit. An insert would create a gap in the tracks above. But what about all those great keyboard shortcuts we learned for placing tracks? Can't we use them with audio-only tracks? Hit Command-Z to undo. Make sure the timeline playhead is still at 6:19, and hit F10 for an overwrite edit. Much faster, positioning our audio right where we want it in time, but it overwrites the guide track, something we don't want to eliminate just yet. We still need it for comparison. How do we do the same thing, but make it land on a different set of tracks? Hit Command-Z to undo. Now go to this area left of the timeline. This is called the patch panel, and it's like a simple circuit that wires your source, the tracks in the viewer clip, to the destination, the tracks in the timeline. The stereo tab in the viewer says A1, A2, and the A's are lowercase. Back in the patch panel, we also see the lowercase A1 and A2. Right now they are plugged into the uppercase A1 and A2, which represent the first 2 audio tracks in the timeline. The source buttons are on the left, and the destination buttons are on the right. How you connect them determines where your edit lands. Click once on the lowercase A1. The control buttons disengage. Now hit F10. Only the lowercase A2 track is edited into the timeline. If a source track isn't patched to a destination track, it doesn't travel. So we're not done yet. What's the point of adding a professionally mastered audio track if we only use half of it? We want stereo, so we need to repatch the channels to get both of them in the clear. Hit Command-Z to undo. Drag the A2 source control to the A3 destination. Drag the A1 source to the A2 destination. And be sure to click on it to re-engage the source and destination buttons. Now hit F10. Exactly what we wanted. Let's try that one more time. Hit Command-Z to undo. The tracks are still patched the way we want them, but this time, click and hold on the drag hand and drop it into the Overwrite section of the canvas overlay. Click a few seconds before the edit and hit spacebar to play. Sounds like a perfect match. Now, in the timeline, click on the in point of the studio track and drag left all the way to extend it. Do the same with the out point. Now say we want to hear the studio track on its own with picture. Go back to the patch panel. See the bright green button beside the A1 audio track? Click on it to disable the guide track. The track is darkened, no longer part of our mix. And if you hit play, you hear only the stereo studio tracks on A2 and A3. All of these patching techniques apply to video clips as well, which we'll see in a later lesson.